The history of the Clone Wars had already convinced an entire galaxy that no greater conflict could ever exist. Thousands of star systems burned beneath endless campaigns. Republic fleets dueled separatist armadas across hyperspace lanes that had been charted for millennia. Jedi Knights who had once settled disputes through wisdom now led clone legions into battles measured not in days but in years. Count Dooku believed every victory pushed the Confederacy closer to independence. Chancellor Palpatine quietly shaped every defeat into another step toward absolute control. Even the Force itself seemed consumed by the struggle between light and darkness. Yet beyond every prophecy the Jedi had preserved, beyond every calculation hidden within the mind of Darth Sidious, and beyond every hyperspace route ever explored by the Republic, another civilization gazed toward its own stars completely unaware that history was about to collide with myth. On a small blue planet called Earth, humanity had spent centuries wondering whether intelligent life existed somewhere among the countless lights filling the night sky. None of those dreamers imagined the first answer would arrive not through a radio signal, not through a distant telescope, but through a doorway that would tear reality apart itself. If you enjoy epic Star Wars what-if stories where entire civilizations collide and history changes forever, make sure to smash the like button, share this video with fellow Star Wars fans, comment below with the next crossover scenario you'd love to see explored, and most importantly subscribe to the channel so you never miss another cinematic journey into a galaxy where impossible worlds collide. The year on Earth had begun like countless others before it. Nations competed for influence while simultaneously cooperating through science, commerce, and exploration. Hundreds of satellites silently crossed low Earth orbit every 90 minutes, creating an invisible web that connected nearly every city on the planet. Aircraft traced glowing paths across continents while cargo ships carried the lifeblood of civilization through the oceans. Nuclear submarines drifted beneath thousands of meters of seawater, hidden from every eye except the commanders entrusted with humanity's most devastating weapons. Space agencies looked toward the Moon and Mars as the next great frontiers. Astronomers searched endlessly for signs that humanity might not be alone. Every discovery seemed to promise that first contact would someday arrive through patience, mathematics, and careful observation. Nobody expected the universe to answer with violence. The first anomaly appeared beyond Neptune, where sunlight had faded into little more than a pale shimmer against the endless darkness. Instruments aboard several deep space observatories detected gravitational fluctuations that should have been impossible. Light bent around empty space as though invisible mountains existed where telescopes saw only vacuum. Radio observatories received bursts of structured static repeating mathematical sequences that no known natural phenomenon could produce. Across Europe, quantum laboratories registered energy spikes beyond the limits of every theoretical model. Military satellites operated by the United States, China, Russia, India, and numerous allied nations independently confirmed identical distortions within minutes of one another. Every system reported the same impossible conclusion. Space itself had begun changing. At first, scientists suspected equipment failures. Extraordinary claims required extraordinary evidence, and decades of experience taught researchers to distrust miraculous readings. But as more observatories focused toward the outer solar system, skepticism gave way to growing unease. The distortion expanded hour by hour. Massive ripples crossed millions of kilometers, twisting gravity into impossible shapes while distant stars shimmered behind translucent waves of blue and violet light. Astrophysicists exhausted every known explanation. Black holes could not behave this way. Dark matter could not explain the readings. Exotic particles offered no answers. Every calculation collapsed into contradiction. Governments quietly activated emergency communication channels rarely used outside global crises. Intelligence agencies exchanged classified sensor data while military analysts considered possibilities ranging from experimental foreign technology to previously unknown cosmic events. Publicly, no announcements were made. Civilian observatories simply reported unusual astronomical activity. Behind closed doors, however, presidents, Prime ministers, monarchs, defense ministers, and intelligence directors stared at the same horrifying images. Something unimaginably powerful was approaching Earth, and humanity possessed absolutely no framework for understanding what it was. Millions of light-years away, the Clone Wars continued with ruthless familiarity. Republic Venator-class Star Destroyers exchanged brilliant torrents of turbolaser fire against separatist warships above contested worlds. Squadrons of ARC-170 starfighters streaked between exploding frigates while vulture droids swarmed across the battlefield in overwhelming numbers. Clone commanders directed disciplined formations through impossible odds as Jedi generals reached into the Force to anticipate enemy maneuvers before they occurred. To every participant, this was simply another battle in an endless war. Then hyperspace itself shuddered. Navigation computers across multiple sectors suddenly produced contradictory calculations. Commercial freighters emerged light-years away from their intended destinations. Entire hyperspace corridors fluctuated unpredictably before stabilizing moments later. Astromech droids recalculated routes only to reject their own solutions seconds afterward. Deep within the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, meditation chambers filled with an unfamiliar sensation unlike anything experienced during the Clone Wars. Master Yoda slowly opened his eyes as countless distant impressions brushed against the Force before disappearing. They were not voices in the traditional sense. They carried neither the harmony of the light side nor the consuming hunger of the dark. Instead, they felt disconnected, as though billions of living beings somehow existed beyond the tapestry through which the Force united all life. Mace Windu immediately sensed the same disturbance. Around the council chamber, experienced Jedi masters exchanged uneasy glances that required no words. Every crisis throughout the Clone Wars had carried familiar patterns. Every threat eventually revealed itself through the Force. This presence refused every attempt at understanding. It existed, yet somehow remained outside everything they had spent their lives studying. Far beyond the Republic's established frontier, the unknown regions exploded with impossible light. Reality folded inward before erupting into brilliant streams of blue, white, and emerald energy stretching across interstellar space. Hyperspace itself fractured beneath unbearable pressure before stabilizing into a corridor unlike anything recorded during 25,000 years of galactic history. One end remained anchored within the unexplored reaches of the Star Wars galaxy. The other reached across realities and emerged beyond Neptune inside Earth's solar system. For the first time since either civilization had looked toward the stars, two completely different universes had become connected. Republic reconnaissance stations detected the anomaly almost immediately. Their sensor officers believed they had discovered an entirely new hyperspace passage opening into previously inaccessible territory. Such discoveries, while rare, had transformed galactic civilization before. Frontier exploration remained one of the Republic's oldest traditions. 3 Consular-class cruisers supported by escort frigates received authorization to investigate. Their orders were straightforward. Survey the corridor. Determine navigational stability. Identify any hazards. Report their findings to Coruscant. Nobody imagined they were about to leave their own universe. The small Republic task force entered the corridor under standard exploration protocols. Brilliant energy cascaded across their deflector shields while stars vanished from every viewport. Navigation systems abandoned familiar galactic coordinates entirely. Even experienced captains struggled to interpret sensor readings that no longer corresponded with any known region of space. Minutes later, the ships emerged into complete silence beneath unfamiliar constellations. The galactic core had vanished. Entire star patterns bore no resemblance to any charts stored within Republic archives. Yet one nearby system immediately attracted attention. A yellow main sequence star surrounded by 8 major planets. The third world radiated unmistakable signs of advanced civilization. Thousands of artificial satellites orbited the blue planet. Electromagnetic transmissions flooded Republic receivers across countless frequencies. Atmospheric analysis revealed breathable oxygen. Population estimates climbed into the billions. Yet despite such extraordinary development, No hyperspace signatures existed anywhere within the system. No orbital defense stations comparable to Republic standards protected the planet. No interstellar shipping lanes surrounded the star. The civilization below had mastered global communication while remaining completely confined to a single solar system. Curiosity quickly replaced uncertainty. Republic linguistic computers immediately began processing Earth's broadcasts, analyzing television transmissions, internet communications, radio broadcasts, satellite data, and military frequencies simultaneously. Within hours, translation algorithms achieved workable interpretations of multiple human languages. Officers aboard the lead cruiser studied humanity with genuine fascination. They observed music, literature, scientific achievement, philosophical debate, political disagreement, remarkable engineering, breathtaking artistic expression, and extraordinary resilience despite constant internal divisions. According to every Republic principle, this was precisely the kind of civilization diplomacy had been created to welcome. The fleet commander prepared a peaceful greeting. Back on Earth, military analysts reached a dramatically different conclusion. The unidentified vessels had ignored every law of orbital mechanics known to human science. They possessed no visible chemical engines. They accelerated without detectable reaction mass. Their formations displayed unmistakable military precision while steadily approaching the inner solar system. High-resolution telescopes finally resolved their true scale, and the implications sent shockwaves through every defense ministry on the planet. These were not asteroids. They were starships. Each dwarfed the largest aircraft carrier humanity had ever constructed. Heat signatures indicated reactors producing energy outputs beyond anything terrestrial engineering considered possible. Strategic commands around the world elevated readiness conditions simultaneously. Fighter wings dispersed to hardened airfields. Missile defense networks activated. Nuclear command authorities entered heightened alert without publicly announcing the reason. Naval battle groups altered course while intelligence agencies desperately searched for any clue regarding the visitors' intentions. Some leaders urged restraint, insisting that any civilization capable of crossing interstellar distances would almost certainly seek diplomacy before conquest. Others argued the opposite. A species possessing technology that advanced would have no reason to fear humanity. If they arrived in force, perhaps force itself was their message. Neither side desired war. Neither side intended hostility. Yet both civilizations viewed the unknown through entirely different histories. The Republic saw another young world waiting to join a peaceful galactic community. Humanity saw an armada unlike anything ever imagined moving relentlessly toward its home. Then, as the Republic cruisers continued their cautious advance, dozens of additional hyperspace signatures suddenly erupted inside the dimensional corridor behind them. Humanity watched in stunned silence as an entire Republic fleet began emerging from the impossible gateway. The silence that settled across Earth's command centers lasted only a few seconds, yet it felt like the longest pause in human history. Every military satellite, deep space telescope, radar installation, and classified surveillance platform remained fixed upon the impossible corridor beyond Neptune as more vessels emerged from the shimmering gateway. What had begun as 3 unidentified starships was rapidly becoming an organized fleet unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. Massive wedge-shaped warships appeared one after another, their brilliant engines glowing with an eerie blue light as they slipped effortlessly from the dimensional passage into the solar system. They maintained perfect formation without a single visible transmission between them, moving with the calm precision of a civilization that had mastered interstellar navigation thousands of years before human beings had invented the wheel. Around the globe, military officers who had spent entire careers studying deterrence and strategic balance reached the same unavoidable conclusion. Whatever these visitors intended, humanity possessed no historical comparison for what was unfolding before its eyes. Inside the lead Republic cruiser, however, the atmosphere could not have been more different. The officers standing before holographic displays believed they had stumbled upon one of the greatest discoveries in Republic history. Their scanners revealed billions of intelligent beings occupying a single lush world rich in oceans, forests, mountain ranges, and sprawling cities illuminated by electrical networks stretching across entire continents. Linguistic computers continued absorbing Earth's broadcasts at astonishing speed, decoding English, Mandarin, Spanish, Arabic, Russian, Hindi, French, and dozens of additional languages until translation software began assembling coherent cultural profiles. The officers observed scientific conferences, orchestral performances, sporting competitions, university lectures, children's stories, parliamentary debates, and humanity's endless stream of digital communication. Despite Earth's political divisions, they saw evidence of compassion, creativity, curiosity, and resilience. According to every tradition the Galactic Republic had upheld for millennia, this civilization deserved the opportunity to join a greater galactic community. The commanding officer transmitted his findings through the hyperspace corridor toward Coruscant, and although the dimensional gateway complicated communications, enough information reached the Republic to spark immediate debate within the Galactic Senate. The arrival of an entirely unknown civilization beyond the known galaxy represented an event unprecedented even in the Republic's 25,000-year history. Senators abandoned scheduled discussions regarding Clone Wars logistics as emergency sessions convened beneath the towering dome of the Senate Rotunda. Thousands of floating repulsor pods drifted into position while delegates argued excitedly over incomplete reports arriving from the frontier. Some believed the discovery represented a miracle capable of restoring hope during the darkest years of the Clone Wars. Others questioned whether a civilization beyond the galaxy could pose unforeseen dangers. Yet the overwhelming consensus remained optimistic. Throughout its history, the Republic had expanded through diplomacy rather than conquest. Welcoming new member worlds had become one of its defining ideals. Supreme Chancellor Palpatine watched the growing excitement with carefully concealed interest. Behind his composed expression, Darth Sidious considered possibilities far beyond those discussed openly within the Senate. An entirely new civilization existing outside the influence of the Force represented a variable absent from every Sith prophecy and every political calculation he had spent decades constructing. If managed correctly, Earth's arrival might become another tool for consolidating power. If mishandled, it could threaten years of careful manipulation. Unlike the senators surrounding him, Sidious did not celebrate discovery. He evaluated opportunity. Every crisis strengthened his authority. Every fear increased dependence upon his leadership. If this mysterious world could somehow become another source of instability, then perhaps it would serve the Sith as effectively as the Clone Wars themselves. Within the Jedi Temple, the Council remained deeply unsettled. Master Yoda continued meditating upon the strange presence that lingered beyond the dimensional corridor, yet the Force revealed almost nothing. Ordinarily, every living civilization resonated within the Force like countless stars illuminating an endless night. Earth's billions of inhabitants should have appeared as one of the brightest concentrations of life imaginable. Instead, the visions arrived fragmented and distant, as though an invisible barrier separated humanity from the Force's familiar current. Mace Windu found the sensation equally disturbing. Some Jedi suggested the dimensional passage itself interfered with perception. Others quietly questioned whether life could truly exist beyond the Force's reach. The debate touched the very foundations of Jedi philosophy. For thousands of generations they had believed the Force surrounded and penetrated all living things. Now they confronted evidence suggesting reality might be far larger than they had ever imagined. On Earth, governments struggled to understand the intentions of the approaching fleet. Republic transmissions soon reached terrestrial receivers after translation algorithms adapted to human languages, and for the first time in history, an extraterrestrial civilization formally addressed humanity. The message was calm, respectful, and carefully worded. The visitors identified themselves as representatives of the Galactic Republic, an interstellar democracy composed of millions of member worlds. They expressed peaceful intentions, explained that they had entered the solar system accidentally while investigating an unprecedented spatial anomaly, and requested diplomatic dialogue to prevent misunderstandings. They also extended an invitation unlike anything humanity had ever conceived. Earth, should it choose, could begin the process of becoming a member of the Galactic Republic, gaining access to advanced medicine, interstellar commerce, hyperspace technology, cultural exchange, and the protection of one of the oldest civilizations in galactic history. For many scientists and diplomats, the proposal sounded almost miraculous. Membership promised knowledge capable of transforming civilization overnight. Diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries might vanish beneath Republic medicine. Energy shortages could become relics of the past. Interstellar travel, once the dream of science fiction, might become routine within a single generation. Yet others interpreted the same message through an entirely different lens. Military strategists immediately focused upon one phrase repeated throughout the transmission: protection under the authority of the Galactic Republic. To governments accustomed to defending national sovereignty, the implication appeared unmistakable. Join voluntarily beneath Republic authority, or remain outside the protection offered by a civilization whose military already dwarfed humanity's capabilities beyond comprehension. The United Nations convened an emergency session unlike any in its history. Delegations representing every recognized nation assembled beneath unprecedented security while encrypted communications linked presidents, prime ministers, monarchs, intelligence directors, military commanders, economists, legal scholars, and scientific advisors from every continent. Never before had the entire human race faced a decision affecting not merely one nation but civilization itself. Some leaders argued passionately that rejecting diplomacy with a civilization capable of crossing galaxies would border on suicide. Others insisted that accepting Republic membership before fully understanding its political system would amount to surrendering humanity's independence without negotiation. Historians warned of countless examples in which technologically superior powers had absorbed weaker civilizations while promising peace. Philosophers questioned whether humanity possessed the moral right to bind future generations to an alien government they scarcely understood. Outside the assembly halls, ordinary citizens watched events unfold with equal measures of awe and anxiety. News networks abandoned every scheduled broadcast. Images of the colossal starships dominated television screens, smartphones, and public displays across the world. Families gathered in homes, restaurants, schools, and workplaces to witness history unfolding in real time. Religious leaders debated whether the visitors fulfilled ancient prophecies or challenged established beliefs. Financial markets fluctuated wildly as uncertainty spread through the global economy. Social media became an endless stream of speculation, hope, fear, celebration, and conspiracy theories. Humanity remained united by one undeniable truth. The universe had suddenly become infinitely larger than anyone had imagined. While politicians debated, intelligence agencies worked relentlessly behind the scenes. Cybersecurity specialists attempted to understand Republic communications. Astronomers refined measurements of the dimensional corridor. Engineers analyzed propulsion signatures recorded by orbital telescopes. Every fragment of information became priceless. Early assessments painted a sobering picture. Republic starships carried weapon systems capable of releasing energy far beyond modern conventional explosives. Their defensive shields appeared to render ballistic weapons largely ineffective. Yet analysts also identified limitations. The visitors relied heavily upon centralized communications, standardized doctrine, and assumptions shaped by thousands of years of galactic civilization. Humanity, though technologically inferior, possessed centuries of experience fighting asymmetrical conflicts, adapting rapidly under pressure, and exploiting unconventional strategies. Back on Coruscant, debate within the Senate gradually shifted. Reports from Republic diplomats indicated that Earth's governments had neither accepted nor rejected the offer of membership. Instead, humanity demanded clarification regarding sovereignty, military independence, legal jurisdiction, economic authority, and constitutional rights. Many senators expressed surprise that a single-system civilization would hesitate before joining the Republic. Others interpreted the delays as evidence of political instability. A growing faction argued that prolonged uncertainty created unnecessary risks while the Clone Wars continued raging across the galaxy. Several influential senators proposed dispatching a larger security force to reassure Earth and guarantee the safety of diplomatic personnel. Palpatine subtly encouraged these voices without appearing responsible for them. He reminded the Senate that countless Republic citizens depended upon stable first contact and that unforeseen dangers could emerge from misunderstandings. His words sounded measured, even compassionate, yet they gently steered opinion toward increased military readiness. Few recognized how perfectly the discussion served his hidden ambitions. Every additional warship sent through the corridor deepened Earth's suspicion while increasing the Republic's dependence upon centralized authority. Fear accomplished what persuasion never could. After nearly 48 hours of relentless deliberation, the United Nations reached its decision. For perhaps the first time in recorded history, every member nation cast the same vote. Humanity would not surrender its sovereignty to an unknown interstellar government. Earth welcomed peaceful relations. Earth welcomed diplomacy. Earth welcomed trade. But Earth would remain independent. The formal response reached the Republic within hours. Across the Senate chamber, silence followed the translation. Then the debates erupted. Some senators urged patience, believing negotiations could continue indefinitely. Others interpreted humanity's refusal as a dangerous rejection of Republic law and stability. The Clone Wars had already taught the Republic how quickly isolated political disagreements could become armed rebellions. Military leaders warned that allowing an independent civilization beyond Republic oversight to develop unrestricted access to hyperspace might create unpredictable consequences for galactic security. As the arguments intensified beneath Coruscant's immense Senate dome, the final vote was called. The Galactic Senate authorized precautionary military preparations around the dimensional corridor. Across the solar system, long-range telescopes detected new hyperspace flashes blooming inside the gateway. The first true invasion fleet had begun to assemble. The announcement that Earth had unanimously rejected membership within the Galactic Republic rippled across two civilizations with astonishing speed, but while billions of humans celebrated what they believed was the preservation of their independence, another audience watched the decision with far greater satisfaction. Hidden beneath the endless cityscape of Coruscant, inside chambers unknown even to the highest-ranking senators, Darth Sidious stood before a galaxy map illuminated in crimson light. Tiny markers representing Republic fleets shifted constantly as military deployments changed by the hour, yet his attention lingered upon a single new symbol hovering at the edge of explored space. Until only weeks earlier, the planet had not existed within his calculations. It had been an impossibility, an entire civilization beyond the reach of the Force and outside the history of the Republic itself. Now it had become the newest piece upon the galactic Dejeric board. Unlike the senators panicking over diplomatic failure or the Jedi worrying about another avoidable war, Sidious saw opportunity. Every misunderstanding between humanity and the Republic weakened trust. Every delayed negotiation consumed resources. Every fleet dispatched toward the dimensional corridor distracted from the Clone Wars exactly as he desired. The Sith Lord had spent decades orchestrating conflict across thousands of systems, but even he could not have engineered a development as useful as a civilization determined to defend its freedom against a government convinced it represented order. If events continued naturally, both sides would bleed themselves dry without realizing someone else benefited most from every casualty. Across the breadth of the Republic, however, not everyone viewed Earth through the same lens. The Jedi Council gathered once again within the temple overlooking Coruscant's endless skyline, where speeders streaked between towering skyscrapers beneath a hazy golden sunset. Reports from diplomats, reconnaissance vessels, and intelligence officers painted an increasingly troubling picture. Humanity possessed neither hyperspace experience nor knowledge of the Force, yet they had refused Republic protection with remarkable unity. More disturbing still, they had demonstrated military capabilities unlike those of any civilization the Republic had encountered in generations. Their aircraft relied upon aerodynamic principles instead of repulsor lifts. Their communications traveled through electromagnetic networks rather than HoloNet relays. Their missile systems used overwhelming kinetic and explosive force instead of elegant directed energy weapons. Primitive by galactic standards in some respects, astonishingly sophisticated in others, Earth represented an entirely different evolutionary path. Master Yoda sensed uncertainty within every member of the Council. Some feared another prolonged war stretching already exhausted clone armies beyond their limits. Others believed patience might still preserve diplomacy. Obi-Wan Kenobi argued that misunderstanding had created the crisis and therefore understanding might still resolve it. Mace Windu remained unconvinced. Republic authority depended upon stability. If a newly discovered civilization could openly reject Senate oversight without consequence, countless frontier systems might question their own obligations. Political reality often proved less forgiving than moral philosophy. Yet beneath every tactical discussion lurked another mystery none of them could explain. Why did the Force remain strangely silent whenever they attempted to perceive humanity's future? Individual humans existed within the Force like every living being, yet Earth itself seemed surrounded by an inexplicable veil, as though its history belonged partly to another current beyond even Jedi understanding. While the Republic debated, Earth's governments pursued entirely different priorities. Deep beneath Geneva, beneath reinforced command centers connected to every major intelligence service on the planet, representatives from dozens of nations assembled for perhaps the most consequential security conference in human history. Massive displays projected intercepted Republic communications translated through increasingly sophisticated linguistic algorithms developed from captured transmissions. Every new hour expanded humanity's understanding of galactic basic, Republic military terminology, and fragments of galactic political structure. Linguists worked alongside artificial intelligence specialists, historians collaborated with astrophysicists, and military analysts attempted to reconstruct 25,000 years of galactic civilization from scattered broadcasts. The more humanity learned, the more complicated the situation became. The Republic was clearly not a simple empire driven purely by conquest. It possessed elections, laws, trade agreements, courts, and countless member worlds enjoying considerable autonomy. Entire species participated willingly within its institutions. Yet it also maintained authority over unimaginable territories through military strength backed by clone armies bred solely for warfare. The Senate genuinely believed it offered peace, prosperity, and civilization. Earth, however, saw another interpretation. Membership required accepting distant political authority. Strategic defense became centralized. Independent military decisions became subject to Republic interests. Human leaders debated endlessly whether such arrangements resembled voluntary cooperation or subtle domination. Historical experience shaped every perspective. Nations that had endured colonialism viewed Republic membership with suspicion. Others argued survival demanded compromise when facing an interstellar civilization capable of deploying fleets larger than Earth's entire global navy. The arguments remained unresolved because another signal interrupted them. Unlike previous Republic broadcasts transmitted openly across diplomatic frequencies, this message appeared only within encrypted military channels Earth had quietly begun monitoring. It carried no recognizable Republic authorization codes. Its transmission route suggested extraordinary sophistication, bypassing conventional communication relays before embedding itself inside quantum analysis networks monitoring the dimensional corridor. Engineers initially assumed cyber intrusion until the signal decoded itself automatically into flawless English. The source identified itself simply as Count Dooku. Confusion spread immediately. Intelligence databases rapidly cross-referenced every intercepted Republic discussion mentioning the name. Within minutes, analysts assembled a preliminary profile. Former Jedi Master. Political idealist turned revolutionary. Supreme leader of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Commander of the Separatist Alliance currently fighting the Clone Wars against the Republic. Charismatic statesman. Military strategist. Alleged traitor. Confirmed enemy of Chancellor Palpatine's government. The timing could not have been accidental. Secure communication specialists isolated the transmission within hardened facilities while senior political leaders gathered once more. No public announcement accompanied the event. Even many military commanders remained unaware. The message itself contained neither threats nor propaganda. Instead, it presented an invitation. Dooku acknowledged humanity's refusal to surrender its sovereignty and praised what he described as admirable independence. He claimed the Republic portrayed itself as a benevolent democracy while gradually concentrating authority within corrupt political elites manipulated by corporate interests. Earth, he argued, had already recognized truths countless star systems had learned too late. The Confederacy of Independent Systems existed precisely because worlds grew tired of surrendering local autonomy to a distant Senate incapable of genuine reform. Rather than demanding submission, the Confederacy respected self-determination. Humanity, according to Dooku, deserved choices. He proposed opening discrete diplomatic channels entirely separate from Republic oversight. No immediate alliance would be required. No military commitments. Only discussion between civilizations seeking independence from centralized galactic authority. If Earth wished, the Confederacy could provide limited hyperspace technology, astronomical databases, and scientific exchanges allowing humanity to defend itself without becoming dependent upon Republic goodwill. Earth would remain sovereign while gaining knowledge impossible to acquire alone. Around the conference chamber, reactions divided instantly. Some diplomats argued the offer represented exactly the opportunity humanity required. If the Republic possessed rivals of comparable strength, perhaps balancing relationships between both powers could preserve Earth's independence. Others viewed every sentence with profound suspicion. Intelligence officers reminded political leaders that Dooku commanded enormous droid armies responsible for devastating countless inhabited worlds. The Republic described him as a tyrant. Separatist communications described themselves as liberators. Both narratives could contain truth. Both could contain lies. Military analysts focused upon something else entirely. How had Dooku penetrated communication networks without detection? Cybersecurity experts examined every fragment of the transmission, searching for hidden code, surveillance implants, or malware. None appeared. Instead, they found encryption methodologies centuries beyond human capability yet executed with extraordinary precision. Whoever had sent the message understood information warfare at levels Earth had scarcely imagined. Meanwhile, beyond Earth's atmosphere, Republic reconnaissance intensified. Additional cruisers emerged cautiously through the dimensional corridor, maintaining respectful distances while expanding sensor coverage across the solar system. Officially, they continued observing defensive preparations and awaiting further diplomatic instructions. Unofficially, Republic intelligence had already begun evaluating humanity's industrial capacity, orbital infrastructure, naval deployments, and economic resilience should conflict become unavoidable. Clone officers respected their potential opponent precisely because humans had repeatedly demonstrated disciplined coordination despite lacking galactic technology. Captain Rex studied detailed reports arriving from reconnaissance specialists with growing fascination. Earth's soldiers fought without clone genetic standardization yet maintained remarkable operational flexibility. Their command structures varied enormously between nations but adapted quickly during crises. Their aircraft depended upon atmospheric limitations unknown to starfighters, yet pilots compensated through tactics refined over generations of conventional warfare. Human militaries excelled not because they possessed superior equipment but because centuries of conflict had forced relentless innovation beneath technological constraints. General Anakin Skywalker reached similar conclusions from entirely different observations. Reviewing footage gathered during earlier encounters, he noticed human pilots making split-second improvisations that clone simulations rarely anticipated. Earth commanders repeatedly exploited terrain, deception, electronic interference, and decentralized initiative. They fought like opponents who assumed technological inferiority from the beginning and therefore emphasized unpredictability. Anakin respected that instinct immediately. Yet even as Republic officers studied Earth, Separatist intelligence had already infiltrated entirely different avenues. Commerce Guild representatives quietly approached human corporations through intermediaries operating near the dimensional corridor. Independent traders offered harmless consumer technologies in exchange for industrial samples. Smugglers began probing Earth's orbital defenses, searching for profitable opportunities. The Hutts dispatched observers hoping to evaluate an untouched market potentially containing billions of future customers. Black Sun financiers wondered whether Earth's cyber capabilities might revolutionize galactic financial espionage. Before humanity realized it, almost every major faction within the Star Wars galaxy had begun competing for influence. Earth itself responded cautiously. Rather than accepting Dooku's invitation outright, intelligence agencies established covert analytical teams dedicated exclusively to evaluating the Confederacy. Reconnaissance satellites monitored every vessel entering or leaving the dimensional corridor. Linguists processed fresh separatist transmissions alongside Republic broadcasts, comparing contradictory accounts of the Clone Wars. Historians noted striking similarities to Earth's own past, where competing powers always justified wars through narratives portraying themselves as reluctant defenders against inevitable aggression. The more evidence accumulated, the more difficult certainty became. Scientists meanwhile pursued perhaps the most revolutionary project in human history. Within heavily guarded laboratories, engineers examined microscopic fragments recovered from Republic equipment damaged during earlier incidents. Exotic alloys displayed molecular arrangements impossible under known metallurgy. Miniaturized power systems generated extraordinary energy densities. Navigation computers contained mathematical frameworks describing higher dimensional travel beyond Einstein's theories. Every discovery suggested humanity stood at the threshold of technological transformations capable of reshaping civilization itself, provided enough time remained to understand them. Unfortunately, time grew increasingly scarce. Across the Republic, political pressure mounted upon Chancellor Palpatine to demonstrate resolve. Senators representing vulnerable frontier worlds argued that allowing Earth to reject Republic authority without consequence projected dangerous weakness during wartime. Others warned that military action against an isolated civilization would betray every principle the Republic claimed to defend. Debate became increasingly bitter, exactly as Sidious intended. Within the Confederacy, Dooku prepared additional overtures while concealing his deeper motives even from many allies. Earth possessed industrial creativity unlike any galactic civilization. If guided carefully, humanity might become an invaluable strategic partner, or a devastating distraction consuming Republic attention for years. And on Earth, hidden behind layers of encrypted intelligence accessible only to a handful of leaders, analysts delivered one final assessment that silenced every room in which it was read. Neither the Republic nor the Separatists appeared to be telling the complete truth about the Clone Wars. Evidence suggested both governments manipulated information, concealed atrocities, exaggerated victories, and distorted history for political purposes. Humanity had entered a conflict where certainty itself had become a casualty. Somewhere beyond the stars, the real story remained hidden, and whoever uncovered it first might determine the fate of two galaxies. The first reports reached the Jedi Temple as fragmented mysteries rather than military intelligence. They came from reconnaissance teams returning from Earth, from Republic diplomats who had narrowly escaped escalating tensions, from clone officers whose battlefield instincts told them something about humanity refused to fit any established pattern. Every civilization the Republic had encountered over thousands of years existed within the living force. Some worlds produced countless force-sensitive children while others produced almost none, but every sentient species contributed to the invisible current connecting life across the galaxy. Every forest, every ocean, every insect, every towering beast, every intelligent civilization generated echoes that could be perceived by those trained to listen. Yet the reports from Earth described something that should have been impossible. The planet teemed with nearly 8 billion human beings, but to Jedi observers it felt strangely quiet, as though an immense veil had been draped across reality itself. Within the towering chambers of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, Masters Yoda, Mace Windu, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Shaak-Ti, Plo Koon, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and several senior archivists gathered around a holographic projection of Earth's blue sphere slowly rotating above the council floor. The world looked beautiful even from billions of stars away. Vast oceans shimmered beneath swirling white clouds while continents glowed beneath sunlight remarkably similar to that of countless Republic worlds. By every biological measure, Earth should have resonated brightly through the Force. Instead, every Jedi who focused upon it described the same unsettling sensation. Silence. Not the silence of death. Not the silence of machines. A different kind of absence. Master Yoda closed his eyes and reached outward through the Force once more. He had spent centuries communing with worlds whose songs filled the living Force with vibrant energy. Kashyyyk pulsed with ancient forests. Naboo flowed with serene harmony. Even war-ravaged Geonosis possessed a harsh but unmistakable rhythm of life. Earth should have appeared as a blazing beacon across the cosmic tapestry. Instead, he sensed only faint ripples, like distant echoes arriving through impossibly thick walls. When he opened his eyes again, uncertainty lingered across his ancient face. Never before had he encountered a world that seemed to exist almost outside the Force's awareness. The Council initially suspected technological interference. Earth's communication networks filled near orbit with thousands of satellites transmitting powerful electromagnetic signals. Military radar installations continuously scanned the skies. Nuclear reactors generated unfamiliar energy signatures. Perhaps some unique scientific phenomenon obscured Force perception. To test the theory, Jedi researchers examined archived records from worlds possessing even greater technological sophistication. Coruscant itself contained quadrillions of electronic systems without diminishing the Force. Industrial planets covered in machinery remained fully visible through meditation. Even the artificial Ecumenopolis worlds built almost entirely of metal still resonated with living beings. Technology was not the explanation. Biology offered no answers either. Medical scans taken during the first diplomatic exchanges revealed humanity's physiology closely resembled countless near-human species already known throughout the Republic. Cellular structures appeared familiar. Brain activity followed recognizable patterns. Genetic diversity matched expectations for an intelligent civilization that had evolved naturally. Nothing suggested humans should be fundamentally disconnected from the Force. Yet the mystery remained. Master Jocasta Nu descended into the deepest archives of the temple searching forgotten records accumulated across 25,000 years of galactic exploration. Ancient holocrons documented civilizations long vanished into history. Lost hyperspace expeditions described encounters beyond the Republic's borders. Even obscure legends preserved by early Jedi explorers received renewed examination. No civilization resembling Earth had ever been recorded. No species invisible to the Force existed within the archives. No philosophical text even proposed such a possibility. It was as though humanity represented an entirely new category of life. Obi-Wan Kenobi volunteered to lead a second investigation personally. Having witnessed humanity's courage during the disastrous First Contact, he believed fear rather than malice had driven Earth's military response. If diplomacy remained possible, understanding humanity would prove essential. Accompanied by Anakin Skywalker, Ahsoka Tano, several Jedi scholars, and a small diplomatic escort, he crossed the dimensional corridor once more under an agreed temporary ceasefire negotiated through increasingly sophisticated translation systems. Earth greeted them with suspicion rather than hostility. Fighter aircraft shadowed Republic shuttles from the moment they entered Earth's atmosphere. Naval radar tracked every movement. Satellite constellations adjusted their orbits to maintain uninterrupted observation. Human governments had no intention of allowing another misunderstanding to spiral into open conflict. This time, however, both sides deliberately slowed every interaction. Meetings took place inside a neutral United Nations research facility constructed beneath extraordinary security. Scientists from dozens of nations assembled alongside military commanders, linguists, philosophers, psychologists, and religious scholars. Opposite them stood Jedi whose entire understanding of existence depended upon a force that humanity neither perceived nor understood. The cultural divide became immediately apparent. Human scientists explained gravity through mathematics. Jedi explained balance through the Force. Earth's physicians described consciousness emerging from neurological complexity. The Jedi spoke of the living force flowing through all life. Neither side dismissed the other's ideas outright. Both recognized they faced discoveries capable of reshaping everything they believed. As days passed, increasingly sophisticated experiments began. Medical researchers performed extensive examinations of willing Jedi volunteers while Republic healers studied human physiology. Advanced scanners searched for measurable differences that might explain humanity's unusual relationship with the Force. Midichlorian analysis became the obvious starting point. Among every known species, microscopic symbiotic organisms called midichlorians served as intermediaries between living beings and the Force. Greater concentrations generally corresponded with stronger Force sensitivity, though countless other factors influenced potential. Human blood samples produced astonishing results. Midichlorians existed, but only in extremely small numbers. Numbers so low that, according to every established theory, humanity should scarcely have been capable of complex awareness. Yet Earth had built civilizations, created art, explored science, developed morality, split the atom, reached space. Without meaningful interaction with the Force, the discovery overturned millennia of Jedi assumptions almost overnight. Some masters suggested Earth's dimensional origin had fundamentally altered the biological relationship. Others proposed humanity evolved entirely outside the influence of the cosmic force before entering its reach through the dimensional corridor. More radical thinkers quietly wondered whether the Force itself extended only across its native universe. If true, the implications staggered comprehension. Elsewhere on Earth, scientists pursued equally revolutionary questions. Laboratory instruments monitored Jedi performing controlled demonstrations under carefully observed conditions. Telekinesis, enhanced reflexes, heightened perception, and limited precognitive awareness all occurred exactly as described. Every experiment violated conventional physics while remaining internally consistent. The Force existed. Humanity could no longer deny it. Yet attempts to measure it directly failed. No electromagnetic fields changed. No gravitational anomalies appeared. Quantum fluctuations remained statistically insignificant. The Force influenced reality without behaving like any measurable force known to modern science. Entire branches of physics suddenly seemed incomplete. Military researchers became interested for entirely different reasons. If humans truly possessed negligible connections to the Force, what tactical consequences might follow? General Marcus Holloway, appointed to coordinate scientific cooperation between Earth's armed forces and civilian researchers, quietly requested practical demonstrations under tightly controlled conditions. The Jedi reluctantly agreed, not to aid military development, but to understand the anomaly. Inside a reinforced observation chamber, Obi-Wan selected a civilian volunteer named Dr. Elena Vasquez, a neuroscientist specializing in cognitive psychology who had spent weeks studying Jedi behavior. She understood exactly what would occur. Obi-Wan gently explained the nature of the Jedi mind trick, emphasizing that it functioned only upon receptive minds and never against overwhelming resistance. With Elena's consent, the demonstration began. Obi-Wan focused calmly. His voice remained soft. His presence flowed effortlessly through the Force. You will forget this conversation for a few moments. Nothing happened. Elena blinked. She looked slightly puzzled. I'm sorry, she said politely. Was something supposed to happen? Silence filled the chamber. Obi-Wan tried again. More concentration. More precision. More subtle influence. Again nothing. Medical monitors registered no abnormal neurological activity. Brain imaging revealed ordinary cognitive function. There was no indication the Force had affected her thoughts whatsoever. Anakin exchanged an uneasy glance with Ahsoka. Neither had ever witnessed complete immunity before. The experiment repeated with additional volunteers. Results varied. Some humans experienced vague feelings of suggestion. Others reported mild emotional impressions. Several displayed complete resistance. One former Special Forces officer laughed afterward. insisting he had merely ignored what sounded like a persuasive request. The implications spread rapidly through both civilizations. Could humanity's weak connection to the Force provide natural resistance against abilities that had shaped galactic history for millennia? The question reached Palpatine sooner than anyone realized. Within his hidden chambers beneath Coruscant, Darth Sidious studied classified intelligence with growing fascination. If humanity proved unusually resistant to Force manipulation, they represented something even more dangerous than advanced technology. They represented uncertainty. His greatest weapon had always been influence. Political manipulation. Carefully directed fear. Subtle domination. A civilization naturally resistant to certain Force techniques introduced variables impossible to predict fully. For the first time since discovering Earth, genuine concern disturbed the Sith Lord's calculations. Across the galaxy, rumors spread quickly despite official secrecy. Clone troopers whispered stories about humans who ignored Jedi suggestions. Smugglers exaggerated the tales until Earth became a mythical world beyond the Force itself. Separatist intelligence launched covert operations attempting to steal research data before the Republic fully understood its implications. Even bounty hunters began seeking contracts connected to humanity's strange biology. Meanwhile, the Jedi continued searching for answers. Master Plo Koon proposed perhaps humanity's connection resembled a dormant ember rather than complete absence. Shaak Ti wondered whether exposure to the Force over generations might slowly strengthen future humans. Obi-Wan suggested patience. History had offered humanity only weeks within a galaxy shaped by 25,000 years of Force traditions. Perhaps understanding required time. Anakin remained unconvinced. He had watched Elena resist a mind trick without visible effort. He had sensed almost nothing surrounding her despite standing only meters away. It reminded him less of weakness than insulation, as though humanity existed behind invisible glass separating them from the currents every Jedi took for granted. Then the impossible happened. Late one evening, while researchers concluded another series of experiments inside the United Nations facility, an alarm suddenly interrupted proceedings. Security cameras had detected an unidentified intruder moving through restricted laboratories containing captured Republic technology. Military personnel responded immediately. So did Anakin. Racing through brightly lit corridors, he rounded a corner just as a masked infiltrator attempted escape carrying classified data modules. Without hesitation, Anakin reached out through the Force. The intruder froze. At least he should have. Instead, the figure staggered briefly, then kept running. Not immune, but resistant. Strong enough to push forward despite Force restraint that should have ended the pursuit instantly. Anakin caught the infiltrator physically moments later, yet the incident left everyone shaken. It was no longer merely Jedi philosophy under question. Reality itself appeared to operate differently around humanity. And somewhere, hidden within Earth's billions of ordinary people, lay the answer to a mystery capable of rewriting everything the galaxy believed about the Force. The first reports reached Coruscant as little more than scattered intelligence briefings. A Hutt logistics convoy had vanished somewhere beyond the newly stabilized dimensional corridor. A Black Sun smuggling ring had been intercepted by unidentified aircraft over Earth's Pacific Ocean before disappearing from every known sensor network. 2 pirate flotillas attempting to enter the solar system had never emerged again, their transponders abruptly silenced as if they had been erased from existence. At first, officials within the Republic assumed these incidents were isolated consequences of unstable navigation around the corridor. They had no reason to suspect that Earth had already transformed the gateway into one of the most heavily monitored regions in human history. Every radar installation, orbital telescope, military satellite, electronic listening station, submarine communication array, and classified surveillance network operated around the clock. Humanity had accepted a sobering reality. If the stars had come looking for Earth, then Earth would meet them with every tool civilization had ever built. Across the galaxy, however, the story spreading through criminal networks was very different. Whispers traveled through cantinas on Shada, encrypted holonet channels, corporate boardrooms, and pirate enclaves faster than official Republic announcements. The isolated blue world beyond the dimensional corridor possessed technologies no galactic civilization had developed. Its missiles struck targets with astonishing precision despite lacking advanced targeting droids. Its artificial intelligence evolved without relying upon sentient droids. Its cyber warfare specialists had already demonstrated an unsettling ability to infiltrate unfamiliar computer architectures simply by identifying patterns rather than understanding every underlying language. Most remarkably, the planet remained almost entirely untouched by galactic commerce. Every rare mineral beneath its surface, every industrial contract, every financial partnership, every scientific discovery, every emerging technology represented untapped profit waiting for whoever reached the world first. The Hutts recognized the opportunity immediately. For generations they had built their power upon controlling trade routes and exploiting worlds too distant from Coruscant to enjoy meaningful Republic protection. Earth seemed almost designed for their methods. A technologically advanced civilization rich in natural resources yet completely unfamiliar with galactic economics could become either an extraordinarily profitable trading partner or a dependent client state. Powerful Khajiitics quietly dispatched commercial representatives escorted by heavily armed security fleets, each hoping to secure exclusive agreements before rivals arrived. Their offers appeared generous on the surface, promising medicine capable of curing diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries, hyperdrives that could carry ships between stars in days instead of generations, and manufacturing systems beyond Earth's current imagination. Hidden within the contracts, however, lay clauses that would have placed entire industries under Hutt control within decades. Human negotiators noticed. Long before aliens had appeared above their world, Earth's governments had spent centuries navigating unequal treaties, predatory loans, resource exploitation, and economic coercion. International lawyers, economists, intelligence analysts, and commercial experts examined every translated document line by line. What the Hutts considered routine business arrangements looked alarmingly similar to historical examples of colonial influence disguised as mutually beneficial trade. Rather than rejecting the proposals outright, Earth delayed every discussion, requested revisions, demanded transparency, and quietly compared offers from competing Hutt clans against one another. Before long, rival Khajiitics discovered confidential details of each other's negotiations appearing mysteriously within diplomatic circles. Suspicions spread rapidly. Instead of dominating Earth, the Hutts began competing against themselves. Elsewhere, the syndicate known as Black Sun approached the situation from an entirely different perspective. Unlike the Hutts, they valued information above territory. Earth's digital civilization fascinated them. Billions of interconnected devices generated oceans of data every hour. Financial markets moved at electronic speed. Governments depended upon encrypted communication networks spanning continents. The syndicate believed that infiltrating those systems would grant enormous leverage over humanity before formal diplomatic relations had even stabilized. Elite slicers aboard concealed vessels launched sophisticated intrusions toward terrestrial communications infrastructure, expecting primitive defenses. What they encountered instead surprised them. Earth's networks were fragmented, decentralized, multilingual, and protected by thousands of independent cybersecurity organizations rather than one unified architecture. Intelligence agencies, military cyber commands, private corporations, universities, and volunteer researchers all noticed strange intrusion attempts almost simultaneously. Instead of collapsing beneath the assault, defensive teams began tracing the attacks back toward unfamiliar orbital signatures. Artificial intelligence systems adapted in real time. Honey traps collected malicious code. Entire cyber offensives became intelligence opportunities. Within days, analysts who had never imagined extraterrestrial hacking were studying alien encryption algorithms while Black Sun operatives quietly admitted that humanity's decentralized internet had become one of the most frustrating targets they had ever encountered. The failure fascinated observers across the galaxy. Earth lacked hyperspace, droids, and galactic computing standards, yet its digital ecosystem behaved like a living organism. Every attempted intrusion produced thousands of independent defenders instead of a single vulnerable command center. Some Black Sun strategists even suggested abandoning direct cyber attacks in favor of recruiting human experts instead. It was an unusual admission from an organization accustomed to overwhelming technological superiority. The Mandalorians viewed the situation through entirely different eyes. They saw neither trade opportunities nor computer networks. They saw warriors. Helmet camera footage from Republic reconnaissance teams had already circulated through discrete channels. Human fighter pilots repeatedly challenged impossible odds rather than abandoning their aircraft. Naval crews remained at battle stations despite facing vessels hundreds of times larger than their own. Missile operators continued engaging unidentified contacts with disciplined precision despite knowing their weapons might accomplish nothing. To Mandalorian culture, courage carried immense value regardless of technological disparity. Several independent clans began discussing whether Earth's soldiers deserved the chance to prove themselves in honorable combat rather than becoming victims of galactic politics. Not every clan reached the same conclusion. Some saw opportunity for paid military contracts protecting human interests. Others hoped to test themselves against Earth's best special forces. A few envisioned recruiting exceptional human volunteers into Mandalorian society itself. For perhaps the first time in generations, the clans debated a frontier world not because of conquest but because its people had displayed unmistakable resolve. Earth noticed them as well. Military intelligence agencies gradually assembled profiles of the various groups arriving through the corridor. They distinguished legitimate traders from pirates, mercenaries from bounty hunters, independent clans from criminal syndicates. Rather than treating every newcomer as a single alien threat, analysts built comprehensive databases identifying competing interests, political rivalries, historical conflicts, and economic motivations. Diplomacy expanded beyond the Republic alone. Some visitors received cautious welcomes. Others found themselves shadowed continuously by surveillance aircraft, naval task forces, and intelligence teams. Humanity adapted quickly to a galaxy whose greatest weakness proved to be its own complexity. The corporations came next. Representatives from immense galactic manufacturers arrived carrying prototypes that bordered on miraculous by human standards. Compact fusion reactors, advanced medical technologies, shield generators, industrial replicators, and agricultural systems capable of transforming barren landscapes all became bargaining chips in carefully orchestrated negotiations. In return, they sought mining rights, manufacturing partnerships, exclusive patents, and access to Earth's rapidly advancing software sector. Human governments responded by forming an unprecedented multinational scientific consortium. Instead of allowing individual nations or companies to negotiate separately, researchers pooled discoveries under shared oversight. Reverse engineering became collaborative rather than competitive. Every recovered fragment of alien technology was distributed among laboratories across multiple continents, preventing any single power from monopolizing the knowledge. Meanwhile, smugglers flooded the solar system. Not every visitor sought governments. Independent captains landed quietly in deserts, forests, isolated coastlines, and abandoned airfields. Some traded medical supplies for precious metals. Others offered navigational charts in exchange for food, fuel, or electronic components. Black markets emerged almost overnight as collectors purchased alien artifacts and curious civilians encountered beings from worlds they had never imagined existed. Intelligence agencies infiltrated many of these exchanges, learning as much from casual conversations as they did from classified investigations. Every smuggler carried stories about the Republic, the Separatists, the Jedi, the Sith, and countless independent worlds. Humanity was assembling a picture of galactic civilization far richer than any official diplomatic briefing could provide. Even pirates discovered Earth was not an easy target. One raiding vessel attempted to seize a commercial shipping convoy in Earth's orbit, assuming local defenses would prove primitive. Instead, it encountered coordinated resistance from multiple nations operating under a shared emergency command structure. Electronic warfare disrupted targeting sensors while interceptor aircraft, missile batteries, and orbital assets attacked simultaneously from unexpected vectors. Although the pirate vessel ultimately escaped using superior propulsion, It suffered damage severe enough that word spread quickly through underworld channels. Earth was profitable, certainly, but it was also dangerous. Far away on Kamino, clone intelligence officers watched these developments with increasing concern. The Republic had expected Earth to remain isolated until diplomatic tensions subsided. Instead, the entire galaxy was converging upon the solar system. Every criminal organization, corporation, mercenary company, explorer, and opportunist seemed determined to establish influence before the Republic restored order. Clone commanders warned that delaying action much longer would transform Earth from a diplomatic challenge into the center of an uncontrollable geopolitical crisis. Palpatine welcomed the reports. From his office overlooking the endless skyline of Coruscant, he understood something few others recognized. Every pirate entering the solar system, every Hutt contract, every corporate negotiation, every Mandalorian scouting expedition weakened centralized Republic authority without requiring open warfare. Earth had become the perfect distraction. The Senate argued over trade rights instead of military strategy. Intelligence agencies chased smugglers while separatist fleets regrouped elsewhere. Criminal syndicates unknowingly advanced the Sith's broader objective simply by pursuing profit. Chaos, after all, had always been Palpatine's greatest ally. Yet one development captured the attention of every major intelligence service in the galaxy. An encrypted transmission circulated through bounty hunter networks, authenticated by guild authorities and backed by financial guarantees unlike anything ever recorded. The contract did not seek the destruction of Earth. It sought something infinitely more valuable. The client wanted a living human military strategist with unrestricted access to Earth's defensive planning, advanced computing systems, and reverse engineering programs. The reward exceeded the combined value of entire planetary governments. It was, without question, the highest bounty ever offered in galactic history. Across the stars, one name accepted the contract without hesitation. Boba Fett adjusted the targeting systems aboard Slave Eye, turned his ship toward the dimensional corridor, and disappeared into hyperspace, carrying with him a mission that threatened to ignite an entirely new phase of the war between Earth and the galaxy. By the time the solar system had become the newest crossroads of galactic politics, Supreme Chancellor Palpatine had already reached a conclusion that none of his advisors, senators, or even Count Dooku fully understood. Earth was no longer merely another unexpected civilization. It had become the single greatest variable ever introduced into the Clone Wars. For decades, every crisis, every military campaign, every Senate vote, every separatist victory, and every Republic setback had unfolded according to carefully engineered probabilities. Even events that appeared chaotic had been quietly guided toward outcomes that strengthened the Sith's long game. Palpatine had spent years manipulating individuals because individuals were predictable. Fear, ambition, greed, pride, and desperation could all be anticipated. Entire governments could be steered by controlling only a handful of influential leaders. The Republic itself had become a machine whose gears he understood perfectly. Earth, however, refused to behave like any civilization he had ever studied. Inside his private office overlooking the endless skyline of Coruscant, intelligence briefings arrived almost hourly. Reports from Republic diplomats contradicted military assessments. Clone intelligence intercepted communications suggesting some Earth governments favored negotiation while others demanded stronger defenses. Financial analysts documented multinational scientific projects that ignored traditional rivalries. Cyber specialists described thousands of independent research teams sharing discoveries across continents with astonishing speed. Instead of one centralized authority, humanity functioned as a vast web of competing institutions that somehow cooperated whenever survival demanded it. Palpatine recognized the danger immediately. There was no single senator to corrupt, no monarch to intimidate, no planetary governor whose loyalty could reshape the entire civilization. Even if one government accepted Republic influence, dozens of others would continue pursuing their own agendas. The Sith Lord smiled nonetheless. Complexity did not discourage him. It merely required additional pieces on the board. His first move targeted the Republic itself. Publicly, he continued presenting himself as the calm architect of peace, urging restraint while emphasizing the need to protect both Republic citizens and the mysterious newcomers from further misunderstandings. Privately, however, carefully edited intelligence reached influential senators through unofficial channels. Images of Earth's expanding missile defenses, satellite networks, and reverse engineering laboratories circulated alongside exaggerated assessments claiming humanity intended to build fleets capable of rivaling Republic warships within years. Senators already exhausted by the Clone Wars began viewing Earth not as a diplomatic challenge but as a strategic threat that would only become more dangerous with time. Palpatine never instructed them how to vote. He simply ensured they reached the conclusions he desired. The Senate gradually shifted. Voices advocating patience found themselves drowned beneath demands for stronger military preparations. Defense appropriations increased. Additional Venator-class Star Destroyers were reassigned toward the dimensional corridor. Shipyards accelerated production schedules. Every measure appeared entirely reasonable given the available intelligence. Few realized the evidence had been subtly curated to encourage precisely that reaction. While the Republic hardened its stance, Palpatine manipulated the Separatists through an entirely different strategy. Count Dooku received reports indicating Earth's industries possessed astonishing manufacturing potential despite lacking galactic technology. Human engineers continually adapted captured equipment in ways that Republic scientists had not anticipated. Rather than merely copying alien systems, they combined them with existing infrastructure, producing hybrid solutions neither civilization would have designed independently. Palpatine encouraged Dooku to believe that Earth's industrial creativity represented the perfect foundation for future separatist expansion. If humanity could be persuaded to oppose the Republic permanently, the Clone Wars might continue indefinitely. Dooku embraced the opportunity with characteristic confidence. Secret envoys approached selected Earth governments through intermediaries operating beyond Republic surveillance. Their proposals remained deliberately attractive. The Confederacy promised unrestricted access to hyperspace technology, advanced manufacturing equipment, and political independence free from Republic oversight. Unlike earlier diplomatic efforts, these negotiations carefully avoided overt military alliances. Instead, the Separatists presented themselves as fellow victims of Republic centralization, arguing that Coruscant sought only to absorb new civilizations into an aging bureaucracy incapable of respecting genuine sovereignty. On Earth, the offers sparked fierce debate. Some policymakers argued that refusing dialogue with the Separatists would surrender valuable intelligence. Others warned that any cooperation risked legitimizing an organization actively waging war across another galaxy. Intelligence agencies accepted the meetings while refusing every binding commitment. Negotiators listened, questioned, compared information, and quietly cross-referenced separatist claims against data already gathered from smugglers, Republic diplomats, Mandalorians, and independent traders. Humanity increasingly discovered that every faction described itself as the victim while portraying its rivals as aggressors. The contradictions became impossible to ignore. Palpatine had expected Earth to choose a side. Instead, Earth chose investigation. That decision frustrated every attempt at manipulation. Matters became even more complicated when criminal syndicates unknowingly disrupted his plans. Black Sun operatives seeking profit began selling fragments of Republic and Separatist technology to competing buyers. Hut merchants offered transportation services to researchers regardless of political affiliation. Independent bounty hunters leaked information simply to increase contract values. The galactic underworld functioned exactly as Palpatine expected, until it encountered Earth's intelligence community. Rather than attempting to eliminate criminal networks outright, human agencies quietly infiltrated them. Financial investigators traced transactions through shell corporations spanning multiple worlds. Linguists reconstructed coded communications. Cyber specialists exploited weaknesses within captured galactic data systems. Intelligence services that had once focused exclusively on terrestrial rivals now cooperated on an unprecedented scale. Information gathered by one nation often reached dozens of allied analytical centers within hours. Every smuggler arrested, every intercepted transmission, every recovered navigation chart added another piece to a growing understanding of galactic politics. Palpatine had underestimated one crucial difference. Galactic civilizations generally trusted centralized institutions. Humanity had spent centuries learning not to. Every extraordinary claim demanded verification. Every ally was investigated. Every offer concealed possible motives. Earth's fragmented political landscape often appeared inefficient, but it also prevented sweeping deception from spreading uncontested. One intelligence agency might miss a manipulation. Hundreds examining the same evidence from different perspectives usually did not. For perhaps the first time since becoming Darth Sidious, Palpatine found himself confronting an opponent he could not influence through a single elegant strategy. He adapted. Anonymous messages began reaching selected governments across Earth, each tailored to existing fears. Some warned that rival nations secretly negotiated with the Republic. Others suggested hidden agreements with the Separatists. Fabricated intelligence hinted at alien infiltration within military institutions. Carefully forged communications attempted to reignite historical rivalries humanity had temporarily set aside. If Earth could not be controlled from above, perhaps it could be divided from within. The effort achieved only partial success. Political disagreements certainly intensified. Accusations spread across media networks. Parliamentary debates grew increasingly hostile. Yet every attempt to fracture humanity encountered an unexpected obstacle. The undeniable existence of an external galactic threat consistently redirected attention outward. Nations continued arguing over strategy, but few questioned the necessity of maintaining unified planetary defense. The dimensional corridor remained a reminder that disagreements among humans paled beside the arrival of civilizations capable of crossing galaxies. Meanwhile, the Jedi sensed subtle changes within the Republic itself. Master Yoda noticed fear gaining influence inside the Senate. Mace Windu observed military recommendations becoming steadily more aggressive despite limited evidence that Earth sought conquest. Obi-Wan Kenobi, after reviewing diplomatic reports, privately remarked that every proposal for peaceful engagement seemed to disappear beneath layers of bureaucratic delay. None of the Jedi could identify the hidden hand shaping events, but many felt as though the Republic itself had begun drifting toward confrontation with unusual determination. Even Count Dooku became suspicious. His latest communications with Earth had produced disappointing results. Human negotiators accepted technical discussions while rejecting military dependence. They purchased information but refused ideological commitments. Worse still, some of the questions posed during negotiations suggested Earth possessed intelligence that should have remained secret. Dooku began wondering whether another player manipulated the board alongside him. He was correct. He simply did not realize that player was his own master. As weeks passed, Palpatine recognized that time itself had become his enemy. Every month Earth remained independent, it grew stronger. Scientists improved their understanding of hyperdrives. Engineers incorporated shield technology into experimental defense systems. Military planners developed doctrines specifically designed to counter clone tactics and droid armies alike. The Republic still possessed overwhelming superiority, but the gap narrowed steadily. Delay no longer served the Sith. Acceleration did. Deep beneath Coruscant, within chambers hidden from every Jedi sensor, Darth Sidious descended into silence before activating secure communications known only to the highest levels of the Grand Army's hidden command structure. Across Kamino, encrypted instructions quietly altered production schedules. Additional clone commanders received subtle psychological evaluations. Contingency protocols long buried beneath classified military architecture moved closer to operational readiness. None of these changes appeared significant individually. Together they represented something far more dangerous. Order 66 was no longer a distant contingency. It was becoming an imminent solution. Sidious understood that if Earth continued disrupting the Clone Wars, his carefully engineered conflict might collapse before delivering absolute power. The Jedi remained distracted investigating humanity. The Republic demanded stronger leadership. The Separatists unknowingly prolonged instability. Every faction still moved broadly according to his design, but the margin for error had vanished. For decades he had believed himself the only grand strategist in the galaxy. Now another civilization, not through superior cunning but through millions of independent decisions made by countless ordinary people, had begun rewriting probabilities he once considered certain. Standing before the vast windows overlooking Coruscant, Palpatine watched the endless rivers of traffic flowing between towering skylanes. To every observer he remained the patient, reassuring Chancellor guiding civilization through unprecedented uncertainty. Hidden beneath that calm expression, however, the Dark Lord of the Sith quietly abandoned the luxury of patience. The game had entered its final phase. And somewhere on Kamino, clone commanders received sealed directives whose contents would soon change the fate of both galaxies forever. The war everyone had feared, manipulated, delayed, and desperately tried to prevent finally erupted with a violence that neither Earth nor the Galactic Republic had imagined possible. The dimensional corridor that had once represented the greatest scientific discovery in human history became the deadliest battlefield either civilization had ever witnessed. Stretching across the impossible gulf between two universes, the shimmering passage pulsed with unstable blue-white energy as fleets poured through from opposite directions. Republic Venator-class Star Destroyers emerged from hyperspace in disciplined formations, escorted by frigates, corvettes, and squadrons of V-19 Torrents and ARC-170 starfighters. Across the solar system, every military command on Earth activated long-prepared contingency plans. Satellites shifted into wartime orbits. Ballistic missile submarines received encrypted launch authorization. Aircraft carriers launched wave after wave of stealth bombers and fifth-generation fighters. Early warning radars painted the heavens with tracking beams while countless operators stared at screens showing the largest concentration of hostile contacts ever recorded. History would later remember this day not as another battle, but as the moment two galaxies collided. Republic commanders understood they possessed overwhelming technological superiority, but they also respected the determination humanity had demonstrated throughout previous encounters. Their strategy centered on speed. If the corridor could be secured and Earth's orbital defenses dismantled within hours, the Republic believed the conflict could end before civilian casualties reached catastrophic levels. Venators advanced behind overlapping deflector shields while clone pilots executed precise attack formations refined across hundreds of Clone Wars campaigns. Turbolasers illuminated the darkness like artificial suns, vaporizing abandoned satellites and defensive platforms that blocked their advance. To experienced clone officers, the battle initially resembled dozens they had already fought against the Separatists. They expected resistance. They did not expect adaptation on the scale humanity had prepared. Earth had spent months studying every fragment of recovered Republic technology while carefully analyzing fleet movements observed during earlier diplomatic incidents. Military planners knew conventional aircraft could never defeat starfighters in open space. Instead of matching Republic doctrine, they designed entirely different methods of warfare. Thousands of missiles launched simultaneously from hidden silos across multiple continents, from mobile launchers concealed beneath forests, from naval destroyers riding storm-tossed oceans, and from submarines lurking silently beneath the Arctic ice. Individually, few threatened a Venator's shields. Together, arriving from dozens of unpredictable trajectories, they forced clone gunners to engage an endless swarm of targets. Electronic warfare aircraft flooded nearby space with interference while decoy missiles multiplied apparent contacts across Republic sensor networks. The opening exchange did not destroy the Republic fleet, but it achieved something almost as valuable. It disrupted carefully coordinated formations and bought humanity precious time. Above the Pacific Ocean, sleek black stealth bombers climbed through the upper atmosphere under radio silence before releasing experimental payloads developed specifically for this war. They could not match the destructive power of proton torpedoes, yet they exploited one uniquely human advantage: precision. Guided by satellite constellations and real-time artificial intelligence calculations, the weapons targeted exposed sensor arrays, communication dishes, and vulnerable surface systems rather than attempting to penetrate primary armor. Clone crews suddenly found portions of their sensor coverage degrading under attacks delivered by aircraft that barely appeared on Republic scanners. Experienced naval officers quickly adjusted, but the unexpected tactics demonstrated that Earth intended to fight intelligently rather than desperately. Far below, another battlefield unfolded beneath the oceans. Ballistic missile submarines received orders unlike any ever written in naval history. Instead of targeting cities or military installations on Earth, their missiles were programmed to arc directly toward the dimensional corridor itself. Emerging through the gateway in coordinated salvos, they struck Republic staging areas before fleets fully dispersed into formation. The attacks achieved limited physical damage against heavily shielded warships, yet they shattered assumptions about safe operational distances. Clone admirals suddenly realized that any position near the corridor could become vulnerable to attacks launched from an entirely different universe. Defensive screens tightened immediately as escort vessels repositioned to protect logistical elements gathering behind the front line. Recognizing that prolonged orbital combat favored Earth's industrial resilience, Republic High Command initiated the second phase of its campaign. Massive assault carriers descended toward carefully selected landing zones across isolated regions of the planet. LAT gunships roared through Earth's atmosphere carrying disciplined clone legions whose armor gleamed beneath unfamiliar skies. AT walkers emerged from heavy transports alongside armored support vehicles while Jedi generals coordinated operations intended to secure infrastructure rather than annihilate population centers. The Republic still sought victory through controlled occupation instead of indiscriminate destruction. Yet every landing force encountered opponents who had spent generations mastering combined arms warfare on their own world. Modern armies responded with remarkable discipline. Attack helicopters exploited terrain that Republic reconnaissance had barely mapped. Long-range artillery batteries shifted positions after every volley, frustrating clone counter-battery calculations. Anti-armor missiles hidden within ruined industrial districts struck advancing walkers from unexpected angles before disappearing beneath camouflage nets. Special operations teams coordinated with drones that hovered silently above forests and cities alike, relaying targeting data across encrypted networks. Clone commanders admired the professionalism of their opponents even as casualties mounted on both sides. Humanity lacked galactic technology, but centuries of military evolution had produced soldiers capable of improvising under overwhelming pressure. While Earth fought desperately to defend its home, another front unexpectedly exploded into existence beyond the corridor. Months earlier, covert reconnaissance teams had quietly established forward observation posts on sparsely populated worlds near the Republic frontier. Now those preparations paid unexpected dividends. Expeditionary units equipped with adapted environmental gear emerged through captured transport routes, stepping onto alien soil beneath crimson skies and unfamiliar constellations. For the first time in history, human soldiers fought beyond the solar system. They sabotaged supply depots, intercepted communications relays, and disrupted Republic logistics rather than attempting impossible planetary conquests. Every successful raid forced the Republic to divert additional forces away from Earth itself. The expanding conflict rapidly consumed surrounding sectors. Merchant traffic ceased entirely as hyperspace lanes became military corridors. Smugglers fled. Criminal syndicates suspended operations. Even the separatists hesitated before exploiting the chaos, uncertain whether joining the conflict too early might expose their own fleets to unexpected human tactics. Count Dooku observed the fighting with growing fascination. Earth was not winning, yet neither was it collapsing beneath Republic superiority. Instead, the newcomers continually transformed apparent disadvantages into opportunities that no galactic strategist had anticipated. Within the Jedi Council, concern replaced confidence. Reports arriving from the front described clone units encountering fierce resistance from civilians turned organized defenders almost overnight. Jedi attempting negotiations frequently found local commanders willing to communicate but unwilling to surrender. Stranger still, several masters noted that predicting human tactics through the Force remained frustratingly unreliable. Military decisions seemed to emerge from countless decentralized commands acting independently yet coherently, producing battlefields that evolved faster than traditional precognitive instincts could comfortably anticipate. As the struggle intensified, the dimensional corridor itself became increasingly unstable. Explosions from both universes rippled across its shimmering boundaries while debris drifted endlessly between realities. Burning starfighters collided with shattered satellites. Escape pods floated beside fragments of naval destroyers. Missiles, droid wreckage, and broken sections of orbital stations tumbled together in a graveyard unlike anything either civilization had witnessed. Yet through the chaos, one opportunity emerged. During a massive engagement near the corridor's center, a Venator-class Star Destroyer suffered cascading systems failures after enduring repeated missile saturation, precision strikes against exposed communication arrays, and internal power fluctuations triggered by experimental electromagnetic weapons adapted from captured Republic technology. Separated from the main fleet, the wounded giant drifted dangerously close to Earth's side of the gateway before emergency thrusters failed completely. Within minutes, specialized boarding teams launched from multiple directions under heavy fighter escort. Elite Special Operations Forces breached damaged hangar sections while cyber specialists raced toward command systems that clone crews struggled desperately to defend. Across the battlefield, Republic admirals watched in disbelief as the impossible unfolded. For the first time in galactic history, an operational Venator-class Star Destroyer fell intact into enemy hands. The captured Venator-class Star Destroyer drifted silently inside a heavily defended orbit above Earth, surrounded by an armada of escort vessels and watched by thousands of satellites from every nation on the planet. Only weeks earlier it had served as the flagship of a Republic battle group that believed humanity could never challenge the military power of an interstellar civilization. Now it had become the single most valuable object in human history. No nation claimed ownership. No corporation was permitted access without international authorization. The enormous warship was declared a strategic asset belonging to all humanity, and for the first time since the dimensional corridor had appeared, scientists, engineers, military commanders, intelligence agencies, and industrial leaders from every continent worked toward a single objective without political rivalry. The Venator was not merely a captured enemy vessel. It was 25,000 years of galactic engineering suspended above Earth like an unopened library waiting to reveal its secrets. Entering the massive ship felt less like boarding a warship than stepping into the future. Endless corridors stretched for kilometers beneath brilliant white lighting. Reactor chambers generated more energy than entire metropolitan regions on Earth. Hangars capable of housing hundreds of starfighters dwarfed modern aircraft carriers, while shield generators, hyperdrive assemblies, medical bays, fabrication workshops, and sophisticated command centers represented technologies humanity had never imagined possible. Yet what fascinated researchers most was not the size of the vessel but its remarkable elegance. Systems that appeared impossibly advanced often relied upon surprisingly efficient engineering principles. Republic designers had spent millennia refining proven concepts. Human scientists immediately recognized that understanding those concepts would matter far more than simply copying them. The first weeks produced frustration rather than triumph. Hyperdrive cores refused to activate after being disconnected from the Venator's reactor systems. Shield emitters overloaded whenever engineers attempted to recreate their energy harmonics using terrestrial power plants. Astromech droids stubbornly resisted every attempt to rewrite their operating systems, sometimes deliberately undoing hours of careful work before technicians could stop them. Entire laboratories suffered catastrophic equipment failures while trying to reproduce alloys whose molecular structures could not be manufactured using conventional industrial methods. Some officials began wondering whether the technological gulf separating humanity from the Republic truly could be crossed within a generation. But human innovation had never depended upon following established methods. It had always flourished by questioning them. Rather than treating the Venator as a blueprint to duplicate, multidisciplinary research teams dismantled every subsystem until they understood the underlying physics. Aerospace engineers collaborated with particle physicists. Software developers worked alongside naval architects. Artificial intelligence systems modeled billions of engineering possibilities every day, identifying solutions that no individual researcher could have discovered alone. Instead of asking how the Republic built its technology, humanity asked why it had been built that way in the first place. That difference in perspective became the foundation of every breakthrough that followed. The first major success emerged from the Venator's shield generators. Republic deflector shields had been optimized over centuries to absorb sustained barrages from turbolasers and ion cannons during prolonged fleet engagements. Human military doctrine, however, emphasized precision strikes, missile saturation, electronic warfare, and layered defense. Engineers redesigned the captured shield architecture to react dynamically against high-speed kinetic impacts instead of continuous energy bombardment. The resulting system required less power, adapted more quickly to changing threats, and integrated seamlessly with Earth's existing radar and missile defense networks. Military planners immediately realized they were no longer designing equipment for the last war. They were creating technology for an entirely new kind of conflict. Medical science experienced an equally profound transformation. The discovery of Bacta initially seemed miraculous, capable of repairing injuries that modern medicine considered life-altering. Yet physicians refused to accept the Republic's treatment methods as the final word. Robotic microsurgery, regenerative biology, gene sequencing, advanced prosthetics, and artificial intelligence diagnostics were combined with Bacta therapy to create medical procedures that astonished even captured Republic doctors. Wounded soldiers returned to duty in weeks rather than months. Civilian hospitals dramatically reduced mortality from traumatic injuries. Diseases previously considered incurable entered clinical trials for permanent treatment. For the first time since First Contact, humanity realized that galactic technology could improve not only its military but the lives of billions of ordinary people. Perhaps the greatest revolution occurred within artificial intelligence. Galactic civilizations had relied on droids for thousands of years, but their programming emphasized reliability and standardized behavior. Earth's software engineers approached the problem differently. They merged adaptive machine learning with captured droid hardware while preserving strict human command authority. The result was a new generation of autonomous systems unlike anything in either galaxy. Logistics drones continuously reorganized global supply chains. Reconnaissance units analyzed battlefields in real time while learning from every engagement. Orbital maintenance droids repaired satellites and spacecraft without direct supervision. Cybersecurity platforms defended military networks against increasingly sophisticated separatist infiltration attempts. Humanity had not copied the Republic's droids. It had reinvented them according to entirely different principles. Weapons development followed the same philosophy. Blasters possessed undeniable advantages, but Earth refused to abandon centuries of experience with kinetic weapons. Engineers instead embraced hybridization. Infantry rifles could fire either plasma bolts or conventional precision-guided projectiles depending on battlefield conditions. Main battle tanks combined compact turbolaser cannons with electromagnetic railguns capable of penetrating heavy armor. Fighter aircraft retained stealth profiles while carrying proton torpedoes alongside hypersonic missiles. Naval vessels integrated vertical missile launch systems with point defense laser arrays derived from Republic technology. Rather than replacing familiar weapons, alien engineering expanded humanity's arsenal into something no galactic strategist had ever anticipated. Even more significant was humanity's refusal to adopt Republic military doctrine. Clone commanders relied upon disciplined formations supported by overwhelming fleet firepower and Jedi battlefield leadership. Human officers retained the decentralized command philosophy that had evolved over centuries of modern warfare. Satellites synchronized every battlefield into a single intelligence network. Artificial intelligence processed reconnaissance faster than any command staff could manage alone. Cyber warfare disrupted enemy communications before missiles ever launched. Stealth aircraft struck command centers while drones flooded sensor arrays with false targets. Small units received authority to exploit opportunities without waiting for orders from distant headquarters. Republic observers slowly realized that humanity was not becoming another galactic military. It was forcing the galaxy to confront an entirely different way of fighting wars. The greatest obstacle remained hyperspace. Without it, every other achievement risked becoming strategically irrelevant. The Venator's hyperdrive had survived the battle largely intact, allowing scientists months to study every component in extraordinary detail. They soon concluded that building an exact copy would require industrial capabilities Earth did not yet possess. Instead of abandoning the project, they pursued an approach that perfectly reflected humanity's engineering culture. Rather than maximizing speed, they prioritized simplicity, redundancy, and manufacturability. Advanced navigation algorithms replaced centuries of accumulated Republic star charts. Modular reactor assemblies substituted for exotic components that could not yet be produced on Earth. The resulting drive lacked the elegance of Republic engineering, but it could be built using Earth's expanding orbital industries. The first successful hyperspace test lasted only 43 seconds. An unmanned prototype vanished from Earth orbit before reappearing precisely where calculations predicted. Cheers erupted across control centers around the world. Engineers celebrated not because the test had been perfect but because it proved the impossible had become achievable. Humanity had crossed the threshold from a single-system civilization to an interstellar one. Construction accelerated beyond anything previously attempted. Orbital shipyards assembled above Earth using both terrestrial manufacturing methods and captured Republic fabrication systems. Instead of copying Venators or separatist destroyers, designers produced vessels reflecting humanity's own strategic priorities. Their angular hulls minimized detection. Internal compartments emphasized redundancy and damage control inspired by modern naval architecture. Layered shield generators protected reinforced composite armor. Hundreds of vertical launch cells filled their forward sections, capable of unleashing overwhelming missile salvos before enemy fleets entered effective turbolaser range. Drone squadrons operated alongside starfighters. Artificial intelligence coordinated targeting across entire task forces while human commanders retained final authority over every engagement. Republic intelligence dismissed early reports as exaggeration until a reconnaissance task force encountered one of the new human flotillas near the dimensional corridor. Expecting another defensive patrol, the clone commander advanced cautiously. Seconds later, hundreds of coordinated missiles erupted from beyond visual range while electronic warfare systems blinded targeting sensors across the Republic formation. Stealth drones flooded communications with false contacts as shielded railgun rounds slammed into escort frigates already weakened by precision strikes. The engagement lasted less than 12 minutes. Although the Republic force escaped with most of its ships intact, its commander reported something deeply unsettling to Coruscant. Humanity had not matched galactic warfare. It had invented its own. Within the Jedi Temple, senior masters quietly acknowledged that Earth's greatest strength had never been hidden immunity to the Force or captured alien technology. It was adaptability. Civilizations that had enjoyed hyperspace for millennia often refined existing ideas. Humanity transformed every new discovery into something unexpected. That ability made its future almost impossible to predict. Above Earth, the largest fleet ever assembled by human hands slowly departed its orbital construction yards. Sleek destroyers, missile cruisers, fleet carriers, reconnaissance vessels, logistics ships, and support craft aligned around their new flagship, each carrying human-built hyperdrives born from the captured Venator that had changed history. Billions watched from the surface as engines glowed with brilliant blue light against the darkness of space. The mission ahead would determine whether Earth entered galactic history as a conquering power or an equal civilization willing to fight for its place among the stars. As hyperspace coordinates were transmitted across the fleet, every bridge fell silent. One by one, the newly built warships accelerated toward the dimensional corridor before vanishing into streaks of blue light. Long-range Republic listening posts detected the impossible almost immediately. The unknown fleet was not retreating toward Earth. It was making a direct hyperspace jump toward Coruscant. For nearly 3 years, the Clone Wars had been the defining conflict of an entire galaxy. Republic and Separatist fleets had burned worlds, reshaped economies, and consumed generations of soldiers whose lives existed only for war. Yet none of those campaigns compared to what now unfolded around the dimensional corridor linking Earth to the Star Wars galaxy. The conflict had expanded beyond territorial conquest or political ideology. It had become a struggle between civilizations whose continued survival increasingly depended upon ending a war neither side could completely control. Every battle fought across the previous months had only accelerated events toward this moment, when the fate of Coruscant and Earth would be decided simultaneously. Somewhere beneath the polished towers of the Galactic Senate, Darth Sidious believed every variable remained under his command. Somewhere inside the United Nations Security Council bunker, humanity believed one final operation might force peace before total annihilation became inevitable. Both sides were only partially correct. Following the stunning capture of the Venator-class Star Destroyer Resolute Spear, humanity had accomplished what every military analyst within the Republic considered impossible. Instead of merely studying isolated pieces of alien technology, engineers had mastered the integration of hyperspace drives, deflector shields, advanced sensor systems, and compact fusion reactors into entirely new classes of human-built warships. Earth's first hyperspace fleet had not been designed to conquer the galaxy. Its purpose was strategic deterrence. Military planners understood that as long as the Republic believed Earth remained trapped inside its own solar system, Coruscant would always assume victory could eventually be achieved through overwhelming numbers. That assumption had to die. Deep beneath Geneva, representatives from every major military alliance gathered around enormous holographic projections displaying both galaxies simultaneously. Human reconnaissance missions, aided by captured astromech navigation systems and intelligence acquired through neutral smugglers, had mapped the hyperspace routes leading toward the galactic capital. The objective under discussion was extraordinary. Humanity intended to project power across another galaxy, not to occupy Coruscant, but to demonstrate beyond any doubt that Earth could no longer be isolated or intimidated. Every participant understood the risks. An attack against the political heart of the Republic might force negotiations. It might also unite trillions of citizens behind total war. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, the atmosphere inside the Galactic Senate had grown darker with every passing day. Reports describing Earth's technological adaptations had transformed skepticism into genuine alarm. Entire task forces had disappeared while pursuing human fleets. Missile doctrines evolved faster than Republic tacticians could counter them. Electronic warfare had repeatedly disrupted battle coordination in ways clone commanders had never encountered. Even Jedi generals admitted privately that humanity's refusal to follow familiar military logic made predicting its operations extraordinarily difficult. Senators demanded decisive victory before Earth became an equal military rival. Supreme Chancellor Palpatine welcomed every fearful speech. He understood panic better than anyone. Fear produced authority. Authority produced obedience. Obedience created empires. From the shadows beneath the Senate district, Darth Sidious quietly finalized preparations that had been years in the making. Hidden communications reached clone commanders throughout the Republic. Secret contingency plans were updated. The inhibitor chips implanted within millions of clone troopers waited silently for the command that would redefine galactic history forever. Originally, Sidious had intended Order 66 to follow the resolution of the Clone Wars against the Separatists. Earth's arrival had complicated everything. The Republic had survived every unexpected development so far, but prolonged conflict with humanity threatened to exhaust both military strength and public confidence before his empire could emerge. If events continued spiraling beyond his control, he risked losing the carefully orchestrated balance that had taken decades to build. For the first time in years, Darth Sidious accepted a conclusion he once considered unnecessary. The Jedi had to die sooner. Across the galaxy, Count Dooku sensed subtle changes within his master's strategy. Republic fleet movements no longer prioritized defeating the Confederacy. Instead, increasing numbers of Venator-class Star Destroyers assembled along hyperspace corridors leading toward the dimensional gateway. Separatist intelligence intercepted communications indicating unprecedented military mobilization directed against Earth. Dooku recognized the danger immediately. If the Republic eliminated humanity first, the enormous industrial capacity of Earth would eventually strengthen the Republic's war effort beyond anything the Confederacy could match. Yet if humanity succeeded in crippling Coruscant, the resulting political chaos might destroy the Republic before Sidious completed his plans. Neither outcome served Dooku's interests. For perhaps the first time since the Clone Wars began, the apprentice found himself independently maneuvering against his own master. Elsewhere, the Jedi Order found itself increasingly divided. Master Yoda remained deeply troubled by humanity's unique relationship with the Force. Repeated investigations had confirmed the impossible. Human beings existed within living ecosystems, demonstrated emotion, creativity, compassion, and cruelty like every known species, yet remained strangely muted within the Force itself. Force visions surrounding Earth appeared blurred, as though an invisible veil obscured countless futures simultaneously. Some masters feared humanity represented a danger beyond Sith manipulation. Others believed this mystery proved the Force extended further than Jedi philosophy had ever imagined. Master Obi-Wan Kenobi argued for diplomacy until the very end. He had witnessed human soldiers risking their lives to protect civilians on worlds they could have abandoned. He had seen captured clone troopers treated according to international conventions despite humanity possessing little understanding of galactic law. He had also watched Republic commanders dismiss human sovereignty with alarming arrogance. Neither civilization was innocent anymore. Both carried blood upon their hands. Anakin Skywalker reached similar conclusions through different reasoning. Having fought humanity directly, he respected their determination. Their weapons were unfamiliar, their tactics unpredictable, yet their courage reminded him of planetary defense forces that had resisted impossible invasions throughout Republic history. Unlike many senators, Anakin no longer believed Earth sought conquest. Humanity wanted security, independence, and recognition as equals. The tragedy was that neither side could admit enough mistakes to end the war before pride consumed them both. While debates consumed Coruscant, Earth's greatest military operation quietly began. From hidden construction facilities scattered across Earth and several secured lunar shipyards, humanity's first operational hyperspace fleet departed under complete communications silence. Hybrid destroyers accelerated alongside captured Republic escort vessels whose identification transponders had been carefully modified through months of cyber warfare research. Escorting them were stealth reconnaissance craft unlike anything found in the Republic Navy, vessels designed around low observable technologies enhanced by deflector shields and hyperspace capability. Their mission was not planetary bombardment. Their mission was to appear above Coruscant itself. The psychological impact mattered more than firepower. As the fleet entered hyperspace, thousands of personnel understood they were participating in history's boldest military gamble. Back at the dimensional corridor, the Republic launched its own final offensive. Hundreds of Venator-class Star Destroyers emerged from hyperspace in disciplined formation, accompanied by acclamator assault ships, carrier groups, medical frigates, and logistics vessels stretching across millions of kilometers. Clone commanders prepared invasion plans refined through decades of Republic doctrine. Orbital superiority would precede planetary landings. Strategic infrastructure would be neutralized. Communications would be disrupted. Governments would collapse. Earth would be occupied before resistance reorganized. Except humanity already expected every phase. Orbital defense satellites activated in coordinated waves. Missile submarines hidden beneath every major ocean launched synchronized salvos through carefully calculated trajectories. Space planes carrying electromagnetic strike weapons climbed into low orbit. Artificial intelligence systems distributed targeting solutions across allied militaries in seconds rather than minutes. Radar arrays merged seamlessly with captured Republic sensor networks, creating the most comprehensive battlespace awareness ever achieved by either civilization. The corridor exploded into light. Turbolasers crossed paths with hypersonic missile swarms. Starfighters met stealth interceptors emerging from unexpected vectors. Shield impacts illuminated space brighter than miniature suns. Explosions echoed silently across the void as wreckage from two galaxies drifted together. Neither civilization gained immediate advantage. Far away, Earth's hyperspace fleet exited almost exactly where its navigators intended. Coruscant filled every viewport. No simulation had prepared human crews for the sight before them. The Ecumenopolis stretched endlessly beneath them, a planet transformed into a single city whose towers pierced cloud layers while billions of speeders filled invisible highways between colossal skylines. Thousands of orbital defense platforms surrounded the capital alongside enormous fleets protecting the political heart of galactic civilization. Every human officer immediately understood the impossible scale of what they faced. Then alarm sirens erupted across Republic command networks. Unknown warships had appeared above Coruscant. Panic spread rapidly through orbital defense headquarters. Confusion multiplied as identification systems alternated between authentic Republic signatures and completely unknown vessel classifications. Humanity had reached the capital, not as conquerors, as proof. Across government districts, civilian traffic halted while defense fleets repositioned toward the unexpected arrivals. Senators watched emergency broadcasts showing unfamiliar warships holding formation above their world. The same species many believed trapped within a distant solar system now stood over the Republic's capital itself. Everything Palpatine had promised suddenly appeared uncertain. The Chancellor reacted instantly. This crisis could still serve him. Emergency powers expanded once again. Security lockdowns activated throughout Coruscant. Clone units received classified priority transmissions. Inside hidden command bunkers beneath the capital, Darth Sidious finally made the decision he had delayed for months. Earth's arrival had accelerated history beyond recovery. The Jedi would soon discover the truth. He opened a secure communications channel connected only to the highest levels of clone command. His voice remained calm, measured, absolute. The time approaches. Across the Republic, encrypted activation sequences quietly propagated through military networks. The countdown toward Order 66 had begun. Yet the Force itself seemed to rebel against destiny. Within the Jedi Temple, Master Yoda suddenly staggered during meditation. A tidal wave of terror swept through the Force unlike anything he had experienced since the beginning of the war. Thousands of futures collapsed simultaneously. Countless possibilities converged upon one terrible revelation hidden for years beneath layers of deception. Elsewhere, Obi-Wan paused as though hearing distant whispers carried across the Force itself. Anakin felt an overwhelming surge of unease that refused to fade. At precisely the same moment, Earth's cyberintelligence teams monitoring captured Republic communications intercepted an encrypted transmission unlike anything previously encountered. They could not fully decipher its contents, but one repeated designation appeared across every fragment. Sidious. The name surfaced simultaneously within stolen separatist archives recovered months earlier. Independent intelligence analysts compared thousands of intercepted communications. Financial records. Political directives. Fleet deployments. Emergency authorizations. The pattern became unmistakable. Someone had been directing both sides of the Clone Wars from the shadows. Moments later, a surviving separatist intelligence courier transmitted classified evidence directly toward Earth's flagship above Coruscant, believing humanity represented the last faction. Capable of exposing the conspiracy before galactic civilization destroyed itself. As the files decrypted, stunned analysts stared at holographic images connecting Supreme Chancellor Palpatine to the mysterious Sith Lord known only as Darth Sidious. At the exact moment Palpatine prepared to destroy the Jedi and seize absolute power, his greatest secret began spreading toward every major government, fleet, Jedi command center, and news network in the galaxy. The architect of the Clone Wars had finally been exposed. The revelation spread across the galaxy faster than any fleet could travel. Every secure military frequency, every emergency Senate channel, every intelligence network, and countless civilian communications relays suddenly carried fragments of the same impossible truth. The mysterious figure known for years only as Darth Sidious was no longer an unseen phantom manipulating events from the darkness. Evidence connected him directly to Supreme Chancellor Palpatine himself. Financial transactions, classified military directives, encrypted transmissions between separatist command structures, and records painstakingly assembled by Earth's intelligence agencies formed a web so complete that even veteran Republic investigators struggled to deny its authenticity. The greatest conspiracy in galactic history had begun collapsing under the weight of its own deception, and it happened at the precise moment when the Republic and Earth stood on the edge of mutual destruction. Instead of delivering his carefully planned empire, Palpatine found himself confronting the one outcome he had never anticipated, a galaxy no longer willing to believe anything it was told. Shock spread through Coruscant with astonishing speed. Senators who had defended Palpatine for years suddenly questioned every emergency power they had granted him since the Battle of Geonosis. Military commanders who had followed his orders without hesitation now wondered whether every campaign had served a hidden purpose. Across thousands of Republic warships, clone officers stared in disbelief as emergency broadcasts replayed evidence connecting the Chancellor to Count Dooku through years of covert communication. Worlds that had sacrificed millions of lives for the Republic demanded immediate answers. Even systems that had remained fiercely loyal throughout the Clone Wars found themselves questioning whether they had been manipulated into fighting a war designed from the very beginning to eliminate freedom itself. Inside the Jedi Temple, the Council reached the terrible realization almost simultaneously. Every warning they had sensed through the Force, every unexplained political decision, every mysterious advantage gained by the Sith now fit together with horrifying clarity. Master Yoda understood that the dark cloud which had obscured the Force for years had never represented destiny. It had been carefully manufactured by one extraordinarily patient Sith Lord who had hidden in plain sight while orchestrating the destruction of both the Republic and the Jedi Order. Mace Windu immediately assembled the Temple's remaining masters, not to launch a reckless assault, but to preserve what little stability remained before panic consumed Coruscant. Obi-Wan Kenobi recognized another unsettling truth. Had Earth not entered the galaxy, Palpatine's deception might never have been uncovered before Order 66 was executed. Humanity's arrival had disrupted the perfect sequence of events upon which the Sith had relied for decades. Palpatine refused to surrender control quietly. Retreating into the heavily fortified executive levels beneath the Senate District, he activated the final contingencies of his long-prepared plan. Loyal clone units received urgent security directives portraying the Jedi as traitors attempting to seize the Republic through fabricated evidence supplied by an unknown alien civilization. Emergency broadcasts accused Earth of launching an elaborate psychological operation designed to collapse galactic government from within. Even now, the Sith Lord weaponized confusion, believing that enough uncertainty could still preserve the fear necessary for dictatorship. For a brief moment, it seemed his strategy might succeed. Several sectors remained loyal. Some clone commanders questioned the authenticity of the evidence. A handful of senators demanded immediate military retaliation against Earth before debating political accusations. Then the impossible happened. Clone commanders began refusing contradictory orders. Unlike the history Palpatine had envisioned, the inhibitor chip activation sequence had never fully reached the entire Grand Army of the Republic. Earth's cyber warfare specialists, monitoring Republic military communications during the battle above Coruscant, had unknowingly disrupted portions of the encrypted transmission network. Entire fleets received incomplete activation signals. Some clones experienced severe neurological interference rather than absolute obedience. Others never received the command at all. Veterans who had fought beside Jedi for years hesitated instead of firing. Officers demanded verification before executing unprecedented orders. Independent judgment, something Palpatine had never intended his clone army to exercise during this critical hour, spread unpredictably across thousands of battle groups. The Republic fractured, but it did not collapse. At almost the same time, Count Dooku reached his own inevitable conclusion. The Confederacy of Independent Systems had never truly existed as an independent movement. It had always been another instrument within Sidious's larger design. For years Dooku had believed he would help reshape the galaxy before ultimately inheriting power beside his master. Now he understood he had merely been another disposable piece. Refusing to remain a pawn until the very end, he secretly transmitted massive portions of Separatist intelligence archives directly to neutral Senate investigators and Earth's diplomatic delegation. Manufacturing records, secret funding operations, hidden Sith communications, and evidence of deliberate escalation throughout the Clone Wars flooded public networks. The Confederacy itself began unraveling as corporate leaders realized they too had been manipulated into financing their own destruction. The greatest war in galactic history did not end with one decisive battle. It ended because the lies sustaining it could no longer survive. Across the dimensional corridor, fleets that had spent months trying to annihilate one another gradually fell silent. Republic admirals recognized that continuing the assault against Earth would only deepen the chaos already consuming the galaxy. Earth's governments understood that capturing Coruscant would solve nothing if civilization itself descended into permanent civil war. Separatist commanders, abandoned by their political leadership, began negotiating local ceasefires simply to preserve their surviving populations. Smugglers, Mandalorian clans, independent systems, and criminal syndicates suddenly found themselves without predictable battle lines to exploit. The galaxy had reached complete strategic exhaustion. Negotiations unlike any in recorded history began aboard a neutral station constructed near the stabilized dimensional corridor itself. Delegations from Earth stood beside Republic senators, surviving Jedi masters, clone representatives, neutral systems, Separatist officials willing to renounce continued conflict, and observers from civilizations that had spent months watching the impossible war unfold. No one trusted one another completely. Too much blood had already been spilled. Too many cities had burned. Too many fleets drifted as wreckage between stars. Yet every participant understood another truth with equal certainty. If peace failed here, there might never be another opportunity. The resulting agreements transformed both civilizations forever. The Galactic Republic formally recognized Earth as a fully sovereign intergalactic civilization rather than an unclaimed world requiring Republic membership or military oversight. Humanity retained complete political independence while establishing permanent diplomatic relations with Coruscant. Limited technological exchange agreements allowed carefully supervised cooperation in medicine, propulsion research, environmental engineering, and planetary defense while prohibiting unrestricted transfer of weapons capable of destabilizing either civilization. Earth agreed not to interfere in internal Republic politics. The Republic recognized humanity's right to defend the solar system against any future aggression. Independent navigation authorities jointly supervised all travel through the dimensional corridor, ensuring that no single government could monopolize access between the two universes. For Earth, the consequences proved almost unimaginable. Humanity had entered the conflict believing it might be exterminated within weeks. Instead, it emerged as the first civilization in known history to establish equal diplomatic standing with an ancient galactic superpower originating from another universe entirely. Universities opened departments dedicated to xenobiology, hyperspace physics, galactic law, and comparative philosophy. Human engineers continued refining hybrid technologies that combined practical modern engineering with carefully understood Republic science. Medical breakthroughs derived from Bacta research eradicated diseases once considered incurable. Sustainable fusion systems transformed planetary energy production. Space exploration accelerated by centuries almost overnight. The Republic changed just as profoundly. The Jedi Order survived, scarred but alive. Without the successful execution of Order 66, the Jedi were forced to confront uncomfortable truths exposed throughout the conflict. Their assumptions about the Force, destiny, and even life itself had been challenged by humanity's existence. Earth demonstrated that intelligent civilizations could develop extraordinary compassion, creativity, courage, and moral complexity while remaining strangely disconnected from the Force's familiar currents. Rather than weakening Jedi philosophy, the mystery humbled it. The Order slowly abandoned certain rigid certainties in favor of deeper exploration into the true nature of the cosmic force. New generations of Jedi would forever remember humanity not merely as allies or former enemies, but as the civilization that proved the Force had mysteries even the oldest masters had never imagined. Clone troopers also found new purpose. Freed from endless war and from the shadow of Palpatine's manipulation, many transitioned into planetary defense organizations, exploration corps, and reconstruction efforts across devastated systems. Some accepted invitations to Earth as military advisors and cultural ambassadors, discovering a world whose soldiers understood sacrifice in remarkably familiar ways despite originating from another universe. The dimensional corridor itself became the greatest scientific mystery ever encountered. Initially, both civilizations assumed it would eventually collapse naturally. Instead, it stabilized. Years passed. The corridor remained. Then the impossible happened once again. Long-range probes exploring the gateway's deeper structure began reporting impossible navigational readings. The corridor no longer terminated exclusively between the Star Wars galaxy and Earth's universe. New gravitational branches slowly emerged beyond previously mapped regions of dimensional space. Sensor drones transmitted fragmented images of unfamiliar stars arranged in impossible constellations. Strange energy signatures unlike hyperspace echoed through unexplored passages. Artificial signals appeared briefly before disappearing again. Some contained mathematical structures no Republic computer recognized. Others hinted at propulsion systems built upon entirely different scientific principles. Exploration vessels dispatched to investigate vanished without explanation, while a handful returned carrying data that contradicted every established understanding of dimensional travel. Neither the Republic nor humanity publicly revealed the full extent of these discoveries. Official statements described the anomalies as natural fluctuations requiring further study. Privately, the truth proved far more unsettling. The Gateway had never been a bridge connecting only two civilizations. It was becoming something much larger. Something alive with possibility. Something opening pathways toward countless other realities. Worlds where different histories unfolded. Where unfamiliar heroes defended distant civilizations. Where ancient empires rose beneath different stars. Where impossible technologies, forgotten mythologies, unimaginable wars, and entirely new philosophies waited beyond the next dimensional horizon. The Clone Wars had ended differently than any prophecy, Sith plan, or Jedi vision had ever predicted. Earth had not conquered the Republic. The Republic had not subjugated humanity. Instead, both civilizations survived only by accepting that neither possessed all the answers. Their greatest victory was not military triumph, but the wisdom to abandon a war before it destroyed everything worth protecting. Yet as explorers gazed into the ever-expanding branches of the stabilized corridor, one realization quietly settled across both galaxies. The impossible first contact that had changed history forever might only have been the beginning. History would remember the conflict between Earth and the Galactic Republic not as a war that produced a conqueror, but as the moment two civilizations chose survival over pride. Billions had suffered, worlds had burned, and countless lives had been lost because fear had overcome understanding. Yet from that tragedy emerged something neither galaxy had believed possible. Humanity earned its place among the stars without surrendering its independence, while the Republic rediscovered the ideals that had nearly been buried beneath years of endless war. The Clone Wars ended not with the rise of a galactic empire, but with the exposure of the greatest conspiracy the galaxy had ever known, allowing the Jedi Order, the Republic, and countless free worlds another chance to shape their own future. For Earth's people, the stars were no longer distant lights in the night sky. They had become neighbors, allies, mysteries, and frontiers waiting to be explored. For the Republic, humanity proved that courage, innovation, and hope could flourish even beyond the reach of the Force itself. But as explorers ventured deeper into the ever-expanding dimensional gateway, they discovered pathways leading toward realities no chart had ever recorded. Strange civilizations, impossible technologies, ancient powers, and unimaginable wars waited beyond those new horizons. The war was over, and the multiverse had only just begun.
The multiverse doesn't end here. New invasions, new empires, and new worlds collide daily. If you enjoy deep cinematic, what-if scenarios like this, subscribe and join Multiverse Galaxy if